Steve, yeah, he started recording, noted that. Catherine, you wanted to say something before I start, is that right?
Please, yeah. Did you receive Connor's email with a revised agenda due to some people's?
I have.
Yeah, lovely, good.
Yeah, no, I have. Thank you very much. My screen is blipping with people coming into the room at the moment. So we'll just let people carry on doing that, but we'll make a start with the agenda if that's all right. So welcome to today's Public Service Board. You have got an agenda pack which has been sent out, and I will come to just some modifications with the running order in a moment, just so we can help people get onto their Christmas parties and so forth. And there are two supplementary agenda pack items which have gone out, but that's probably enough by way of welcome at the moment. So welcome all to the meeting. We'll try and be as smooth as we can. I don't want to in any way curtail conversation, but if we can keep things to the point, we'll keep within the timetable because we do have a big agenda today. So apologies, Steve, could you just recap what you were just saying in private session so we can have a proper record of the apologies?
So I had told you Carl Cooper sent his apologies, but I see Carl has joined. Yeah. So Carl's here. Yeah. Apologies from Hayley Thomas from the Health Board, from Emma Palmer, Ewan Cray, who's represented by Sean Lloyd today, Diane Reynolds, Connor Farmer and Jane Thomas from the Council, Alison Perry from the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, represented by Claire Bryant today, and Duncan Hamer and Anne Watkin from Welsh Government.
Thank you. We do however have all our key partners here, and we have some cracking replacements in the room to help us today. So that's really good. Next item on the agenda is the minutes, pages 5 to 10 of the agenda pack. So if you just care to turn to those, then we'll first of all, I'm just seeking from someone who was at the meeting that we have those are a true record of the meeting, and then we'll just pick up on some of the outstanding actions, if that's all right. So do I have anyone content to agree to the minutes?
Chair, I'm happy to confirm as they're on closed record.
Oh, thank you very much. Have I got a seconder for that, please? Gavin, thank you. And we'll have just a quick show of hands because Steve always likes us to do things properly. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so at the back of the minutes, there are a number of action points, and we'll quickly run through those if that's all right. So the first of which is on the data network participation, and as I understand it, we've now identified a range of officers from our constituents' organisations that will go forward in respect of that. Is that Catherine? So I'll look for someone just to confirm that's the case. Good. Okay, so I'm just doing a quick note on these. In terms of the PSB hub, the content is being for the engagement hub has been drafted, and the hub is now being built on the council's Have Your Say webpage engagement platform, and partner representatives will be able to access the site and review the structure contents before it becomes publicly available, is my understanding in respect of that. Again, I'm just looking for a bit of confirmation.
Yes, it's in motion. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Climate risk workshop, I think we can tick that one off. We've had that workshop, and there are further reports today. Responses to the PSB annual scrutiny feedback. I think we're covering that, aren't we? So we've drafted some things, and representatives will be able to see those responses before we send it off to committee. Is that item 7 as amended, I think?
That is the future generation recommendations, item 7, I believe.
Oh, right. So that's different to this then. So this is still in play. Is that right? This is the PSB scrutiny workshop responses.
Scrutiny workshop. Sorry, I'm just looking. Which bullet are you on? The fourth one?
Yes.
Yeah.
The PSB
So scrutiny,
annual report.
Yeah. So we took on board the feedback, and some things were sort of wider than the actual sort of annual report. So so we are working on that one.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that? Because I probably confused everybody. No, you're all right. Okay, so then we've got exploring opportunities for sustainable food production, and Gavin in particular was going to, I think, and have a think following Chloe's presentation about whether there were more opportunities. Whether you've done that, Gavin, I don't know. We are, from a Powys Council's point of view, are in active consultation dialogue with Our Food 1200 to look at all additional alternate sites that we may be able to release by way of a property asset transfer that would obviously supplement the work we're doing. But Gavin, was there anything from your side you wanted to update on?
Well, not to update, but just to check in terms of engaging with Powys Council in particular, whether you've got anybody in mind to lead from your side to link up with.
From the council or Chloe, because I think it was Chloe, wasn't it, from the food partnership that was looking to explore opportunities.
I guess probably more in terms of the planning side, recognizing that there are potential things that we'd need to think through there that might be helpful to check
in which case I would say go via Gwilym Davis as Daniel might say not, but I would have said Gwilym Davis, only that he's responsible both for development management and for the property aspects, and is providing a strong lead in relation to our other conversations. But I'll bring Daniel in.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. So happy to pick that work up, working in conjunction with Gwilym on that one regarding the recent studies we have undertaken on the farm estate, and given the closure today of the most recent tender around exploration and mapping out those opportunities to greater detail, which is now closed. So yeah, between myself and Gwilym, Gavin, we can take that one forward.
Daniel, is that something that you think, I'm looking into next year now, that actually we might be able to provide an update? So just as we had Chloe in to talk about the food programme work that we're doing, perhaps I don't want to stray the PSB into different areas, but as an adjunct to that food side, healthy weight / whatever. Yeah,
absolutely. Part of we've just commissioned 2 additional reports on the future of the Powys estate, both farming and non-farming, around the capacity for green growth, for grey growth in terms of industrial use, but also in terms of renewable energy, future food production, understanding the art of the possible with horticulture. So that tender closed as of 2 hours ago. So I'm aware we have had applicants apply for that study, and to follow that up as part of, there's a sort of pronged approach. We've also went out to study the future, actually somehow the governance that would work in reality, because it's all well saying that land could be used for X, Y, Z, but actually the legalities and the governance of that it needs clarification as well. So that works now. Was out in the public space. I'm pleased to say we have had responses for both of those tenders, which I'll be scoring tomorrow. So yeah, happy to report back on that in the new year, Councillor.
Thank you, and thanks for the update just now, because we haven't had a chance to talk today.
No,
so that's a useful update. Thanks for that. And the final action note was for colleagues to go away and have a look at the what do we call it, the police and crime plan, and just to see whether there was alignment and or opportunity to further align. I don't know whether Claire managed to do that. Claire, you're on the call. I can see you, but I don't know whether there's anything what you want to just.
Sorry, just repeat that again, Jake. Apologies.
Not you, Claire. Claire Bryant.
I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
No, not Claire Swales, Claire Bryant. Sorry, too many Claires on the call.
Sorry, I was having a little glitch there. Yeah, so we've had a little bit of upheaval over the last few weeks with some news announcements. So we've kind of just put a little pause whilst we regather our thoughts and understand what the future looks like, which we're still trying to figure out. But I intend on being in touch with each of the PSB officers in due course to kind of plan, because we're not quite sure what our requirements will be in terms of strategies going forwards.
No, I think that's fair to say. So we were having those conversations in the complete absence of knowledge that there was a game afoot, and I think we're just all adjusting to a new landscape that hasn't been set yet. So I think thank you for your update. You are excused from your homework this time. But our thoughts are with you in obviously taking that forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So that then is the those items on the agenda that were additional. I don't think there was anything else, was there, arising? No, I'm just trying to look at colleagues here. I'm not getting any hands up or anything. So that's the actions then from that. In which case, I'll move on with the agenda. And agenda item 4 was, I think, just to note the correspondence that we've received from Jane Bryant from the Welsh Government. And of course, one of the issues that we raised before was one of funding continuity following the closure of available funds from February. That we had a discussion there. It was in the previous set of minutes, and I think it is welcome news that there will at least be some continuity of funding to the PSBs in the short term. Has anyone got anything they wish to observe in respect of that? Carl.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. This is good, as you say. Good to know that there's at least a modest increase. I'm just interested because I don't remember it coming here. You know, how much do we get, and how is it used?
I've got no idea how much we actually get by way of base funding. It was, who can I look at? Catherine.
Hello. Yes, so each year you have to apply for the funding, Carl, and so you have to outline what you're doing. So the majority of the time it's just to, I think it's approximately £40,000, but we help to pay for the translation service that we have here, the administration, the upkeep of the Wellbeing and Information Bank, so lots of sort of background items that keep the Public Service Board functioning. So that's what it's been used for up until now.
But also, sorry, it's paid
for.
Sorry,
I was just wondering. So does that come to us as a? Does the PSB make that decision each year, or is that done in a different way?
It comes in via the council.
It's part of the grant, it's settlement, is it? Because I thought it was, yeah.
You have to bid for it each year and evidence what you've done to have it, if you get me.
So Carl is saying, and Carl, I don't know the answer to this, do we then allocate that £40,000 as a board, or does Powys Council, as the lead authority, distribute that to pay for admin and digital and whatever else is done, is the question. And I think we can take that away and ask for an answer, because I don't know is the answer, Carl.
That's fine, thank you.
Right, so that was Jane Bryant's letter. Sorry, I'm not like some people that have multiple screens. I've just got the one, so I'm flicking all over the place. So that was the correspondence. We then said that we'd move across to Liz. Liz, if you're available with Toby, sorry, and this is an item on the supplementary pack that you have. So perhaps if you can turn to that, and we'll hand over to Liz.
Hi, yeah, I'm just joining now, just connecting my computer. Oh, that's it, yeah. Thank you. Great. So, okay, yes. So, hello everyone. This is to update you about the climate emergency step and to draw your attention to some of the key developments, to highlight the main risks to the project, and to get your input and steer on next steps. So you'll have seen the board paper, which went through in some detail. And relating to the last conversation, obviously funding is still in red on our RAG there. There's a huge amount of work being done, and yes, definitely want to acknowledge the work of my colleagues Toby and Malusi in this, and Simone playing a very effective role guiding it as well from Banai, but also the very engaged work of the PSV Climate Working Group, because we really have got a very good team and high levels of attendance, coming to meetings, participating, developing ideas. So that's been really good. So the step as described in the Wellbeing Plan is called Climate Emergency, and we've been developing our thinking, and as we come to a more public-facing phase in relation to the website and an event that I'll come on to, we've decided that we want to talk about this in relation using the words resilient powers and resilience, because climate mitigation, cutting carbon, and climate adaptation to the climate impacts that we can't avoid, together they make climate resilience. And I think that what the public expects of public bodies is to be protected, and for us to be looking out for them now and in the long term. And resilience seems to capture that really well. And I wanted to remind everybody about the wording of the Future Generations Act, and it really does a sort of very well articulate the relationship that we're trying to find between the kind of social economic well-being of Powys and the ecological resilience that is needed, and all in the context of climate change. So in that context, when we're talking about resilient Powys, we're talking about it in relation to climate change. I think the natural environment is both part of the solution to, drawing down excess carbon, isn't it? And it's part of the resilience that we need. So we're just moving slightly from that just sort of straightforward sort of net zero type framing to focusing in on resilience. And then also, I think what the Future Generations Act ways of working really are embedded in all of the work of the PSB, and particularly the focus for us is on prevention and the ability of public bodies to come together as a PSB to focus in on not just how we deliver services in the short term, but how do we invest now for the long term. And the Future Generations Commissioner has asked all public bodies to, consider, even in budgetary terms, how much money should be spent on investing now to head off problems, because these problems are hitting now. We're seeing the storms and the fires and so on, and we know they're going to get worse. And so this is about an effective public bodies, and also spending money wisely. And so this stream of work very much kind of sits in that space for us as a group of public bodies. And examples of the preventative work that we've been focusing on are prevention around, for example, wildfires, and how the fire service and the National Park Authority can work better together to make sure fires that damage our natural environment but also damage public health, how do we stop those fires happening through a whole series of preventative measures. And there's been some really good improvement of joined up working between those public bodies on that. Another example is the Hive, the PSV Climate Working Group, the Secretariat. We've been doing a lot of work with this initiative, which is an absolutely kind of a gem of a project around reusing clothes banks and libraries of things, really helping those the most vulnerable in our society to get by, but also it's it's saving carbon in the form of kind of avoided embodied emissions. And so there are projects like that that the PSB can we are at the moment doing quite a lot of work to try and find short and then more stable long-term funding for that. But we'd really like to see a vision of Powys moving forward where every town has these kind of reuse hubs that support people in their sort of greatest need. Another example of prevention is around sort of the Dyfed Powys Food Civil Resilience Project that we're feeding evidence in on behalf of Powys, all of the public service bodies. So just a sort of a sense of where the work that we're doing. Also, all PSBs now, there's I think a really pleasing investment in alignment between PSBs. So we're all being asked to conduct climate risk assessments, and Powys is kind of pretty much leading the pack on that. But we're also being invested in to have a consistent approach about systems thinking and futures thinking. So the Public Health Wales have been doing some great training, and there's also Hub Dyfodol. And then alongside that, in the phase 1 of this Powys PSB climate work, we developed our own thinking about the systems of the priority systems that we think need interventions in Powys if we're going to get to climate net zero and climate resilience. And these are the kind of the 5 on the right. And so throughout our work, we're trying to be kind of really consistent and integrated in the way that we're working, following best practice, and being aligned with the Future Generations Act. A few times at in board conversations, there have been reflections on who is the audience for PSB work in general, but particularly this climate step. And we really wanted to draw a distinction between the stakeholders that the PSB needs to be engaging in as a group of public bodies working together, compared to our individual organisations often have quite a big focus on direct public engagement. And so the work that the PSB sort of climate step is doing, our audience isn't so much directly about public audiences. It's more about the coordination of public bodies working together. It's about these kind of systems shifts across, energy, transport, food, etc., and working with people who are kind of leading and engaged in those. It's about place-based working as well. So, what does this look like in the sort of towns and communities across Powys? And it's also about working with external allies who can help bring expertise and be amplifiers of our messages and so on. So those are the audiences that we're engaging with. So as part of that, we, as you know, we've said before that we're developing some content for the Have Your Say Hub. So there will be a resilient Powys space on that, and work's been developing really well. With that will be going live in the next quarter. So it will reflect a lot of the analysis that we've done in phase 1 about what is the carbon footprint of Powys, what are the main kind of risks and vulnerabilities to Powys in relation to climate, and that will all come together and be expressed in a kind of a user-friendly way on that hub to the audiences that I've talked about, because we're really aware that there are other spaces on the internet that talk to public audiences as their primary focus, and we're not seeking to duplicate anything that's out there. This is about what we can add value to. The next thing I just wanted to flag with you is the sort of big climate and nature event that we're organising in February, and that again is about the audiences that I've mentioned. And the real aim of that is to help those who are already most active in this space to come together, to become a bit more of a community of practice, to learn from each other, but also to learn from other sort of technical experts. And so that everybody who really wants to be active in their communities and on these issues is supported to do so and knows where they can go to get further information and ongoing support. And we'd really want to have a good breadth of engagement from public bodies at this event. And we've done a lot of work in discussion with the climate working group and other stakeholders about the agenda for this, but it's still really interested to know what board members want to get out of this day. If there's anything you want to achieve, if there are any town and community councils or community groups that you need to talk to, this might be a really great opportunity to do it. Just a couple more slides. So we had the really good day with local partnerships and Derek Walker focusing on climate risk. We've worked since then with, and that was the sort of the last of a series of workshops, which included officer level workshops across the public bodies to make sure that there is a kind of shared understanding about what the main risks are specifically to Powys, and to get greater insights, more granular insights into where these risks are being the impacts are already hitting and are projected to impact. We've been doing work since then with the local partnerships, and we're taking those findings back to the climate working group to analyse in a bit more detail. But the kind of really key headlines that come out of it are that we need to work together as the PSB, but also each individual public body needs to do its own kind of climate risk assessment. Then we need to bring that together and work out what is it that we can do best in a joined up way across public bodies, specifically in Powys, because clearly there are kind of themed risks, aren't there, in the health sector and so on. But what is it about working together in Powys that we can make progress on? And then we really do think that each community in Powys needs to have a climate resilience plan that is tailored to that community, that is co-produced with that community, and that's good practice that's being adopted elsewhere that we think needs to happen in Powys. Climate mitigation next steps. We've heard there's been discussion at board level before about the need to arm public bodies in Powys to communicate about resilience, and so we are proposing that a kind of climate resilience toolkit is developed to support public bodies, both engaging our own officers within our organisations and engaging public audiences. There's a conversation to be had that I think we're going to have in a different agenda item about the Future Generations report recommendations. A lot of those are about resilience, and so there's some join-up needed locally within Powys to implement them, and we think this strand of work can take that forward. And then sort of finally, there's good practice that we think the PSB Climate Working Group and Secretariat can continue to enable. So things like the Hive, rolling out, what does it look like to scale up what's going well, and how can the public sector play a kind of catalysing and enabling role. So just to finish on funding, because I always do talk about funding because it's always on the red list, we, as a group of PSBs across Wales, there's a proposal to apply for EU Horizon funding to support climate adaptation work in particular, and we're proposing to be part of that initiative and see if we can get some core funding from that. There are clearly projects that can be funded from grant funding, so we're in the process of scoping out grant applications, things like to the lottery, but we still have the challenge of kind of core PSB Climate Secretariat funding that it's very hard to get from anywhere else. Like how do we support some core ongoing capacity with a level of stability that enables this kind of enabling role and capacity building role that we've been doing over the past few years? And I thought it'd be a wise thing to raise it now, potentially before all the next financial year budgets are tied down, and I guess also in light of the money that we get from Welsh Government for PSBs, and can some of that be spent on supporting this ongoing climate secretariat work? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and that addresses Carl's point somewhat in respect of how is that allocation distributed. I mean, obviously, we probably don't have time to get into the detail of how much your secretariat costs, etc., but it'd be useful to, I think, have that put into the mix. But I do wonder on a broader basis, in respect of the funding that we've got the PSB, the SPF funding, which we know is coming to an end, and we got the UK Local Growth Fund, which is due to replace it. And there are discussions next week with the Senedd that I've got. I know Powys Council is drafting responses in respect of that, but you know, following the interest of the Future Generations Commissioner and the round that he's doing at the moment in respect of visiting all PSBs and, you know, really pushing the climate and food agendas, etc., which we're talking about having significance here, and we've got the session in February. Would it be sensible, do you think, to raise this core funding question, which has been coming from the SPF in our responses? And would it be sensible if there were a response from the PSB to the consultation that exists at the moment? So there was something there that said, actually, this is how we think some core funding might be achieved as continuation funding from the SPF. I'm just throwing that out there, Liz. You can think of the response in a moment. And the other immediate response I had to your question about the day on the 7th, would it be including things like the work that Radnorshire Wildlife Trust are doing at Pentwyn with their small holding activity? And we obviously showcased the work at Sarn at a strategic level, project level, but I didn't know whether you were looking to bring any of that to life again around that side of it. So I'll throw those in. So whilst others think of any questions they might have, I see one from Claire now. We have a quick response from Simone or from Liz.
Simone, do you want to?
Yeah, we can certainly provide some costings, Jake. I mean, I don't think we've got this to hand. I absolutely, I think anything to try and get the sort of core funding A for this work, but also just to really bring the data together and the shared working that we're trying to do with the PSB would be absolutely essential for delivering the food strategy and the energy strategy. So we can sort of provide some data to feed into that, absolutely.
All right.
And I think just to really emphasise the value of that commitment and that shared approach. And you know, as Liz just said, the preventative spend, I think that building that in, if we want to be in that space, then we need to find the headroom collectively to be able to develop what those projects are and collaborate and so on. So you know, absolutely, we can provide some narrative for that. But we really need the support from, you know, all the partners around the table, really, that's going to be worthwhile, I suppose.
Yeah, well, thanks. Otherwise we're dipping into our own pockets, and that might be the intention or the request or an option. But if we can shift from SPF funding into you know, local growth funding, then that'd be great. So I'll bring Claire in, and then Daniel.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. Just picking up on the presentation, and thank you for all the information, Liz. Picking up on the work that the Hive is carrying out. Obviously, a really important project. Pavo have worked alongside Hive in their transition to become a standalone body from 7Y, and that's not been without its challenges and frustrations. The challenge ongoing is the short-term funding that they have to continue, and they will be, from my last understanding, reaching that critical point again very quickly in the new calendar year. But also to highlight the wide range of third sector services and provision across the whole of the county that is actually delivering similar projects, but maybe in a slightly different way, whether it is food sharing initiatives, for example, the uniform swap shops, etc. So I think there's a piece of work to be done there around understanding the coverage and the different approaches that we already have in Powys without duplicating. So it's around that evidence of need, particularly for groups when they look for new forms of funding. They need to have that robust evidence.
Thank you, Claire. A useful reminder. Daniel.
Yeah, just a quick point in terms of the growth plan going forward. The current model proposed by Welsh Government was 75% capital, 25% revenue. The model proposed over the border was 75% revenue, 25% capital. So I think it's just keeping in mind in those conversations actually in terms of what our needs are as a local authority and as a PSB. I'd certainly be stressing that point.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for the presentation. Are you staying, or are you going to disappear to your party now? Talking to the team room.
I think we're interested in the item about the future of the PSB. If we can stay for that, that would be great, and then we'll head off.
Okay, lovely. So just get my agenda back up. So we were going to move on then, weren't we, to the next item, which is evidence and insight. So can we quickly do that then, Catherine? That's pages 25 to 28 of the pack.
Yep. So this is looking at the period 1st of October to the sort of end of December. So we're preempting what's happening over the kind of next few weeks, so Q3. So the steps currently on track. Work is progressing to plan. So some key milestones, as you can see on the page, have been complete during the quarter, and other things are on track. Partners are sharing engagement in a coordinated way, and that also forms part of this agenda pack, which we'll be looking at later in terms of what everyone has been up to. And the content for that engagement hub has been drafted. We've been, as you know, we mentioned earlier, the PSB Data Network representatives have been put forward, and work has already begun on gathering data for our next iteration of the wellbeing assessment. So some of the key milestones, as you can see there, in terms of the complete ones, so we have got the data network sort of by people identified, as well as the areas of focus to apply that systems thinking. On track in terms of the engagement findings and insight, and we had a good discussion earlier this week within the council, and we'll be looking to apply some of that to this as well. We've also got some of the data sets and the gaps that we knew from last time sort of identified, and been doing a lot of preparation behind the scenes. So the 6-monthly engagement insight report is in the agenda pack. 18 engagement activities took place since the start of this financial year, covering topics such as barriers to health and dental care, transport, digital exclusion, rurality challenges, and also appetite for community-led action, which are some of the topics that I know are coming through with community conversations that Pavo have been leading on as well. I'm just looking down the list now, I'm conscious of the time. So the priorities for the next quarter then, so that's looking ahead to Q4, January to March. We'll be looking to trial a locality-based analysis of the findings that we get, so understanding things by place a little bit more when we're involving people in what we're doing. The launch, hopefully, of that hub to help make people understand what the PSB is and promote it and the work that it does, as well as how they can get in touch with us. And also having a privacy notice that we can actually use at some of the public events that we will be doing to ensure that we are compliant, and we can share the insight that we get back as well. So yeah, on track at the moment. We are making steady progress, but a lot has sort of been happening behind the scenes rather than publicly.
Okay, I've got hands up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Catherine. Helpful as always. So, thank you for the update. I'm aware, obviously, that and you've mentioned the RPB, and that has a subgroup as well. And last meeting, I think we discussed about trying to work closer really with the RPB sort of subgroups. It'd be good to get a feeling from you on progress on that, so we're not working separately in sort of tandem, if that makes sense. And then secondly as well, lots of engagements with the community, which is really, really important across all organisation. How are we bringing that together then to inform our planning really? It's like the now what element really, if that makes sense.
I think that's a really relevant point, isn't it? In particular with the RPB and the PSB, and making sure we're not double counting anywhere. We're being as efficient as we possibly can. And I'll just throw in the CJC, and so we're in lots of places, aren't we? And we need to ensure that we're getting value out of all of these. Carl.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. And just to build on Mez's point, I think you're absolutely right. It is about getting value, but I think equally from a citizen perspective, I was with a group of patients up in Machynlleth just a few days ago, as well as in other places, and there is that kind of consultation fatigue out there. Please don't send us another questionnaire. Please don't invite us to another engagement group. And clearly we do need to engage. We do need to consult as a health board. We are legally obliged to go through consultation and engagement processes before we can make any decisions regarding service change and so on. But just picking up on Mez's point, if we don't do that effectively and efficiently together, then we risk not getting the people engagement and the people feedback that we all really need. And so I'm just looking for some assurance, really, that we are having those discussions about greater efficiency, therefore greater effectiveness around consultation and engagement. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? And because the work that we've done 3 times now, we've reached out to town and community councils. The first 2 times we did it jointly, didn't we? Powys Teaching Health Board and Powys Council. The feedback we were getting is that wasn't landing well. It wasn't being very meaningful, and we were just 2 organisations, talk and chalk, and it wasn't very interactive and engaging. So we've tried something different this last time. But what you're saying echoes what Claire Swales has said to me. We're doing between us lots and lots of engagement, where in different places on different things, some of which can be brought together as exercises, but most of the data from which can be collated and used more sensibly and rationally and shared and reflected upon in a way that I think you're right, we haven't always done so. And I think it's beholden on us there not to keep going back to the public and asking the same questions, different people. But if we're asking different questions, I think that's obviously legitimate to do so. But it struck me when Liz was saying that every community needs a resilience plan. Well, actually, we're talking about communities having place plans, and I know that's language that's used in the park as well, or locality plans. We're talking about locality conversations, and my view would be that actually within communities, resilience is one of the things that we ought to be looking at, and responsiveness to climate change, as alongside as health needs or access to services needs, etc. So I think we need to be careful about thinking the one plan we're doing, the one conversation we want to have is a separate and special conversation, and actually it might be taken in the round. And we've certainly learned quite a bit from the work that Pavo have been doing with the community conversations now, and the richness of the data they're getting. I think we need to pause quite well and think, oh gosh goodness, what do we do with that, and how can we take that into resilience plans or health and well-being plans or access to service plans without just thinking we all have to go back out. So I've got there, Claire, language is really important too. Resilience, yeah, example, yeah, different things, different people. I totally agree, and we do have our own little worlds of work, don't we? And sometimes a little bit more planning, Carl. I think you're right, but not everything has to be done together. But where it can, we can get value, we should definitely do so. Okay, are there any more observations? If you pop your hand up in the usual way, that's the easiest thing for me to see. No, but Claire, you've got a few thumbs up there with your comments, so thank you for that. So the next item that we have then after evidence and insight is over Now you're going to have to. You're going to sit me down and tell me how to say your name properly, because I mumble it every time because I'm not sure. So shout it out.
It's Mererid. I'll give you a lesson outside the meeting.
Okay.
I'm quite happy to be called Mez if that's helpful.
Mez,
so,
great. Thank you.
Fine, yeah.
I'll
Thank
have the lesson
you.
as well, but thank you. Yes.
That's fine. It's all right. It's rolling the R's, isn't it? So that's fine. I got Tracy joining me on the call, but I'm just working from a screen. I can't see Tracy. Oh no, Helen I can see is on, and there you are. I can see you both now. Sorry, your cameras are off. So if it's okay with you, Chair, I can hand over to Tracy, and Helen is going to present Element, who lead on this for the Health Board on behalf of the PSB, but working in partnership across the county. So diolch, Helen. Thank you.
Thanks, Mez. Nice to meet everybody. Just checking you can hear me okay?
We can hear you.
So just by way of updates on the whole system's approach to healthy weight, we continue to prioritise our children aged 0 to 5, families and access to healthy food, and we've got 2 main subsystems. So these are early years nutrition, and we've got a working group focused on breastfeeding and introduction to solid food, and accessibility of healthy food, which is focused on cooking skills and the affordability of healthy food. So just looking at breastfeeding, which is one of our key priorities, we currently have over 340 venues signed up to the Breastfeeding Welcome Scheme, which the Public Health and the Powys County Council Health Protection and Wellbeing team have been engaging with venues to encourage further sign up, and they're hoping to reach around 400 by the end of the year. Follow-up contact is being made at 6 months with all the venues already signed up to the scheme, so to make sure that we're retaining them and there's consistency with sign up. And meetings have also been held with the Health Board, Digital and the Women and Children's teams to discuss how we ensure we've got access to more accurate data around breastfeeding and the uptake and or the decline. So we've got a series of breastfeeding videos that have been produced to provide broader comms to support the wider reach and sign up, which I can circulate after the meeting. And we've also got the breastfeeding charter, which has been developed by the Health Board. That's drafted and going through the final stages now, ready for approval. And that will be there to support staff when they return to work who are breastfeeding. And it's also being well supported by the Royal College of Midwives, who are keen to get involved with the launch of that. All the childcare settings were invited to an informal awareness raising session on the breastfeeding scheme in January, and this was giving setting staff the opportunity for Q&A and to make an informed decision on whether they sign up. And overall, Powys' local work around breastfeeding is being used as an exemplar nationally as well, which is really pleasing to see. Moving on to introduction to solid foods. So we're in the middle of the rollout of the Gold Snack Award in preschool settings in Powys, and this continues to go well. So we've got 9 settings who've completed the award, 9 in progress from our previous cohorts, and a further 10 settings who've already signed up. And they've all completed our early years snapshot training with another session planned for February to encourage further sign up. And we're already on track to reach end of year targets to support another 5 settings to complete the award and another 5 to commence. To encourage further sign up, there's been a series of Gold Snack film productions made. So we've arranged these with a setting in Ushtree that shows some exemplary practice around the support visits, so that they were help using the video to demonstrate the implementation of the award, highlight the benefits and ease of completion, to encourage others to take it up. And a presentation was delivered at the Health and Wellbeing Preschools Settings Cluster events in Newtown and Brecon back in October to encourage the school-based preschool settings to sign up as well. We're awaiting further evaluations on our weaning classes, but initial feedback from those has been really positive, with parents reporting more confidence with feeding their baby and the awareness of hidden sugars and salts and things in food. I'm just generally more confident when it comes to recognising gagging versus choking. We're also working with the Health Board's digital team on capturing more robust weaning data. The Backyard project was delivered by the public health dietitian in December on food and nutrition for preschool and school-aged children. The session highlighted the need for some awareness training around avoidant restricted food intake disorder, which was noted as increasing in numbers and is a concern to some of the settings. So this will hopefully be picked up by our dietetic and paediatric colleagues along with mental health in the new year to look at delivering a presentation to some of the settings. Affordability of healthy food. So we've just been working with a company called Nudger. So they've undertaken some really fantastic insight work for us to understand our families' experiences with cooking skills and healthy food affordability. We're awaiting the final report and we're just sort of working through that and review this with the working group in the new year to inform our action planning for next year. And we'd be happy to share the findings at a future meeting as well. In terms of Healthy Start, there's still currently no accurate eligibility data available for the evaluation of the uptake of Healthy Starts, but we have requested some local postcode uptake data just so we can look at some targeted comms work and potential areas to pilot the distribution of vitamins in the meantime. The value of the scheme is set to increase from April, but it's quite a low increase, 40 pence a week. So we are contributing through meetings with Welsh Government and Sustain to advocate for improvement of the scheme overall. So things like automatic enrolment for those on qualifying benefits, and where possible increasing the value of the benefit more in line with inflation. So similar to the scheme that's run in Scotland, where we know uptake is significantly higher. And then moving on to cooking skills. So the insight report I mentioned will inform the development of any future actions under this priority area. We're currently delivering an It Starts With Food pilot cooking project. And so far the uptake has been quite low and there seem to be many schemes that are delivered across Powys for cookery, but currently seem to be reaching some small numbers. So we're working through the barriers and having discussion as well the delivery methods need to adapt to reach more families and get the best value for money. So things like online and pre-recorded delivery for the future. We're due to have a project evaluation for this for the end of March, so we'll consider the value and sustainability along with the insight report findings and updates on that in Q4. And then just finally, just to mention the Healthy Weight, Healthy Wales delivery plan. So the latest delivery plan was released in September with 6 priority themes. They've been, these 6 priorities cover embedding a whole system approach, supporting families and the foundations for lifelong health, schools and settings that support good health, creating healthier food environments, active lives and treatment pathways. And under the 6 schemes, they drilled down to 23 actions, those most pertinent to the work we're doing within our Healthy Weight Action Plan are the development and delivery of a new infant feeding action plan nationally, and the review of the Healthy Start scheme to support families on low incomes to access healthier food. There's also a really strong focus in this year's plan on improvement of the food environment as a whole. So we're going to consider how next year's plan will align to any national steer on that. And in terms of next steps, our next steering group meeting, which is planned for February, will be an extended workshop to review the current actions under our Healthy Weight Plan and any system levers we can use to influence the ways of working. So things like policy development, our education channels, procurement, legislation, for example, the new regulations around food promotion and placement that are due in March. We'll also strengthen our communications around healthy weight to have wider reach with healthy weight resources and consider digital resources where suitable. And we met with public health colleagues last week and had a really positive response to the progress in Powys so far. It was a good opportunity for us to talk about local progress and issues, but also an opportunity to feedback ways that we can influence system working at a senior strategic level. So things like better food standards, supporting improvements to the way the Healthy Start scheme is rolled out and so on. We'll also continue to contribute where relevant to the prevention of ill health thematic groups, which are being led by Welsh Government with themes on food environment and early years. Me? Is there any questions?
Thank you. While others think about whether they have any questions, Mez, thank you for the presentation, Helen, there. I'm really interested in whether we've got any evidence that we're actually having a positive impact with some of these things. And I know you say some of the projects are out to evaluation, yet to come back, etc., whether they're cost effective and so forth. But, you know, when we talk about the opportunities that we have when we've got mums and baby groups with breastfeeding, etc., when by the time that young people are presenting in schools, so preschool and school, we're already seeing additional learning needs, behavioural needs and issues arising with those young people. And we're having to start teaching them how to clean their teeth in school. We're having to potty train them in school. And I'm wondering whether, you know, we need to think about adding value to make sure that those touch points that we have with young people around breastfeeding, etc., is actually we're making the most out of them, or whether we're too blinkered, we need to do more on the round, because I'm working it way back from the impact we're seeing around behaviours with young people coming into school. I also wonder around the healthy weight thing and the healthy weight plan you have and all of the actions down there, what evidence we've got about whether on average over the last 5 years we have succeeded in reducing the average weight of the Welsh population or the Powys population, or whether we haven't, whether any of those things have been a greater or lesser success than others. I'm not seeing that here. And you know, you might not have that data, but even within the health service in Wales, what's the average weight, and is it going up or down? You know, where's the evidence for this? We talk about it. We talk about you know, living better into longer life and that. But also, I'm not seeing an active dialogue within the PSB between ourselves and the healthy places and spaces that we have, call them leisure centres or tennis courts or whatever, and exercise and prescribing and impacts, etc. So this to me still feels a little bit remote and disjointed from some of the more joined up work that we might be able to get out of it. And I'm struggling to see the evidence from the presentations. Could you help me a bit more with that, and perhaps we can come back? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to come in if that's helpful element. Yeah, so just in terms of impact, just to say absolutely, and it is a partnership, you know, piece of work that involves staff from local authority, voluntary sector and other organisations as well, and particularly Bwyd Powys element. So in terms of impact, in collaboration with all partners 3 years ago when this work started and for a priority, the rates of childhood obesity and overweight in Powys are over 29%. That is by age 5 measured in school. And the latest data shows that actually that's been reduced to just over 23%. That is a systems response and absolutely having an impact. The approach is evidence-based. So what Anna Prothero, who's on maternity leave currently, did was look at the evidence base then of what are the evidence-based interventions if you to implement them at population scale. So the reality is it's not one thing that will have an impact. It will be around breastfeeding, it will be about healthy foods, it will be about the environment around the child, it will be what's the access of food in nurseries and so forth, and what is available at home. But equally the environment around us, really. I've mentioned previously around planning elements. We are a product of our environment and influences as well. So so in terms of sort of impact, then there are in terms of outcomes, but there's more we can do. And also the Healthy Weights Delivery Plan, actually, that Helen mentioned there, has just been published by Welsh Government, and it does require legislation, does require impact on planning, does require impact on on fiscal, looks at also supermarkets, what's by the tills, etc. At children's height and posture, drinks, etc. And then within our schools environment as well, in terms of food available to young people, that we don't have vending machines into schools, etc. And then the education element as well. So I don't know whether it's sort of helpful, to bring back some of that evidence base to a future meeting, that the working group, or perhaps if colleagues want to attend the multidisciplinary working group that meets on a quarterly basis to oversee the action plan and input it on the evidence. It's at what level do we operate at the PSB, etc. And then we have working groups, in place that look at the evidence base and also collaboration across partners. And then just coming back then to the prevention as a whole element, really. School readiness is important, isn't it, really? So the work from birth, but also through pregnancy as well. And there's the early years programmes, which the health visiting programme in the Health Board, but equally the earliest programmes in the local authority as well. And not, forgetting lots of voluntary sector work there with the early years. There's a measurement really that we probably could be looking at is about school readiness element, and that's data that's not collected anymore. It used to be collected up until about 2020 element, really, and is something as Joint Directors of Public Health across Wales that we have recently raised with Welsh Government, then that would be a good indicator to come back to look at actually school readiness, which may then cover some of the wider areas. But that would rely on schools obviously collecting that data, and that might be something as a local authority you may wish to look at as well within sort of education. And then I can cover dental in the future if that's helpful as well, because there is an evidence-based programme there as well. And we've seen a reduction in oral health and dental caries in 5-year-olds in Powys, which is good news element. So I hope that's helpful.
No, it is helpful, and it is encouraging, because sometimes I do wonder about whether or not we're doing longitudinal, studies and following this cohort that we started with 3 years ago. So you've shown a reduction there, 23% across this cohort, and it'd be lovely to see where they are and whether the changes that we're assisting parents and children and others to make will carry them through life with good behaviours. Because I was running with a former doctor on Tuesday night, and he said 25% Jake is genetics, 75% is environment and choice, in terms of maintaining a healthy lifestyle into later life. So there's an awful lot of things stacked up against us all, isn't there? And you talked about some of them with the shops and others. So thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions of Mayor's? No? Okay, well, thank you. Oh, one to yourself. Come back.
Yeah,
please.
no. I think that's helpful. I think it's important for us as partners to actually, look at what's important in terms of health of the population, where the data is at element. So I suppose my ask, of the PSB would be great involvement in terms of the working group, and staff across the organisation. But what more is it that we can do as all partners in the PSB? No one organisation will solve this element.
Yeah, and I think that is a point. So if there are some good practices to take away into, whether it's into our canteens or our workplaces, or facilitation around support, providing staff with opportunities to have discounted leisure, access and things like that. It works both ways, because if we do it, it's good. If we do it, we get criticised by the public for, pandering to these very comfortable public servants that that are well paid and all the rest of it anyway. So, but I do think it's those range of things, and actually you need to ginger us a little bit, don't you, through the working group, to say, if you were to do these things, we might be able to see these results, and challenge us to take away those things into our organisation. So I think that's timely, and perhaps we'll see something more come out of that group. But please do let me know if you're not getting the support from powers within the group that you think you should have. Claire.
Thank you, and thanks to mayors and colleagues for the presentation. Just earlier today, and I was just having a quick look, I've been shared an infographic from colleagues that have been doing work around the Older People's Forum and the Children and Young People's anti-poverty work and engagements with children and young people. And what's coming out of there, which stands out to me, and it links back into healthy weights and the environment around you, is young people are saying about the closure in the past of youth clubs. And we know that youth clubs have started up organically now and community led, but also play areas and access to things like that are a real barrier for them. So and that's coming direct from young people's voice. So I think there's those wider issues as well that we all need to consider in our different spheres and in the partnership that contribute to healthy weights. But just wanted to acknowledge the report and say thank you to Mez and the team.
Thank you. And you make some interesting points. So there are play impact assessments and things like that the authority does, to understand whether there are sufficient facilities in across our towns and villages. But what do we do with that? Are we sharing that? How's that getting back, and what action is then taken? Can we afford to do it, etc. And that's where I think I want to come back to that sort of the place and locality planning, to actually let these issues from places bubble up, and then that either creates an opportunity for the community to do something about it, or bid or work with us as partners to resolve the issues that they're identifying. Claire.
I was going to come back in on that and I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay.
It was about the play areas, actually. So I think I mentioned it in your cabinet meeting the other day, but that's one of the strong issues that were coming through in the north of the county in particular, where town and community councils were coming to us at a funding fair saying we desperately need funding to enhance our play area, create new play areas, because they understand that communities want that. But actually accessing funding for that has been difficult. Now, I know there was an announcement yesterday, I think, about play. That could have been in England, I can't quite remember. But thinking about how those of us that are able to lobby can lobby the new, any potential new Welsh government around increasing provision for such services.
Yes, of course, there was additional budget this year, wasn't there, out of the budget deal that was done this time last year. So that saw considerable amounts of money coming into play, but it comes and goes very quickly, as you know. £40,000 doesn't buy you much these days, does it, in respect of that? But point well made, and we'll continue to lobby for support. But town and community councils obviously are precept raising bodies themselves. They can raise the funds and within their own communities if they so choose it as a priority. It's not something that Powys has direct funding for. Okay, so item 6, it is the opportunity for board reflection. Catherine, how did you want this to run? Had you got a view on how we did this, or people just wanting to contribute?
No view at all, really. My priority really is the future generations, sort of having good discussion around the recommendations that we've got there, and what people's views are on that. But I don't know if it sort of fits sort of together as our sort of forward-looking thing. Will, that they kind of are one of But yeah,
yeah. Should we go into the draft responses then?
Yes.
Page 15. So I need to find that. If you can get there quicker than me.
Yeah, I'm on page 15. So back, I think it was July, at the July meeting, the Cymru, so Future Generations Cymru Can report came forward, just for everyone's information to look at it. So we took an action away from that to sort of anyone who was willing to be on a working group, just to sort of look at what was in there and how we, you know, what we as a PSB could do with it. So so that is what we've got here. So we've just kind of put a little bit of a summary at the top. So of the recommendations by the Future Generations Commissioner, there are 4 specifically for public service boards, but then there are 23 recommendations directed at public bodies. So we have put all of them in here just so, you know, for an oversight purposes. So against each of them, these are obviously just very draft, and it's for discussion with the rest of you. But so we've separated like the 4 that are specific to PSBs to start with, and a sort of draft response and some comments there for discussion. But then we've also included the wider PSB ones as well. So obviously these are recommendations. We do not have to, you know, take any of them forward, but they've been put forward by the Future Generations Commissioner's Office.
And just to say, the working group, I think, saw it before myself, Catherine. I saw a draft that the working group had done, and then I must say I took a fairly heavy pen to some of the comments you can see there are influenced quite heavily by my views. So as a relatively new chair there, and wanting to ensure, to reflect, I think, something that was said earlier about not duplicating, to ensure that where the PSB was involved, that we added value, and that we weren't trying to just duplicate the efforts that were being made separately. So I don't know whether you've had a chance to consider these in advance of the meeting. Carl, and then Gavin.
Thank you. So what's the time frame for this? Forgive me if I've missed it, Catherine. I think what I'd like to do is to take this and have some conversation within the Health Board, particularly around the health and wellbeing mission statements, and then come back with a more informed suggestion or response if the time frame allows.
Yeah, Fliss, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there is a sort of specific time frame for us to respond to these buys there, Fliss. I don't think that there is. It was more, you know, we need to give good consideration. Fliss?
Yes, I don't have a note of anything, so we're not working on a particular date at the moment.
But am I right in thinking that a response from us as a PSB needs to be submitted, or is it simply for as a kind of internal exercise for us?
Well, I suppose it's to see sort of the appetite of partners, isn't it, and us as a collective. So I guess if we took an action that everybody took it away to discuss in their own places, could we agree to come together at the, you know, or to submit it by a certain point, so that at the next meeting we have a sort of final, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to get clarity on is, do we need to submit this to Welsh Government or to the Future Generations Commissioner for their information or indeed their response, or is it something that is purely a tool for our own self-assessment?
No, I got the impression very clearly that the Future Generations Commissioner is doing a bit of a tour and drumming up enthusiasm to provide constructive responses to the questions that have been posed about how the PSPs, from his point of view, he sees them as an engine house for delivery on some of these aspects. So yes, I think he very much expects it to be a response that he can then use as a foundation in his discussions, either back to individual organisations or to the Welsh Government, to drive forward that agenda. That was my understanding from the conversation I'd had with him. But we'll park that there if that's all right, and we might come back to that. And the team room, you've dropped your hand, but I had you down as third, so I'll go to Gavin.
I was going to say a very similar thing, actually. Yeah, so the end of October was the deadline that the Future Generations Commissioner asked all public bodies to get back. I'm aware that lots haven't by that time, but I also think there are the recommendations that are specifically for the PSB, and I think that's really good to have a discussion on. I actually also think there are quite a lot of recommendations in there that we could very usefully discuss as public bodies together in Powys and do some coordination on. There's a subset of them that are very relevant to climate resilience. And I guess one of the questions is will there be time in the next board meeting to have sufficiently unpack all of those, or should there be a sort of another working group meeting to really go through in a bit more detail?
Yeah, I mean, I think in relation to that working group, it was a fairly light touch. I'm looking for someone that was in it. Catherine, Phyllis, you were in it.
Yeah,
so
yeah, no, it was light touch. We did put out an offer for people to join, but we didn't actually have uptake.
Right. Okay. So I do think after Carl's suggestion is taken on board, and I think people go back individually and have a look, we can then bring that back to that working group. I would suggest, Catherine, rather than try and do it here, so that you can have more of a hands-on feel for it. But you know, I just took the opportunity to populate some responses as thoroughly as I could, and you know, they're up there as an Aunt Sally to be challenged. Happy for that, Gavin.
Thanks. Yeah, so we have responded as an organisation to the Future Generations Commissioner. I think in general we've adopted in part, accepted or accepted in principle the various relevant recommendations. I think there was one that we felt wasn't relevant for us of the, I think it's around 20, wasn't it, that were potential ones for public bodies as opposed to the you know, specific to the PSBs. So I'm still trying to get clarification on whether I can share the response that we've provided, but that's what I'd like to be able to do. And I wonder whether maybe if others are in a similar position that we just look to do a quick table against, you know, just so we can identify where there's commonality of response or where there's areas that we might want to have some further discussion around.
I think that would be good, wouldn't it? So that swapping of tables, as it were, and then taking into the working group to thrash out any tensions or overlaps, to find a form of common words that we're all happy with, to bring it back to then sign off, would be a good use of the working group's time. So I think that's a refinement on what Carl said, and really useful. I'll go to Mez and then come across to Sean.
Yeah, thank you. Similar to Gavin, as a health board, we responded to Future Gen office within the deadline before the end of October, and similarly in terms of accepting those recommendations relating to health, but also giving an update on where we were in relation to progress. I'd like to support Liz's suggestion as well. There are some key themes here which actually align to the priorities of our PSB in you know, in terms, so that places us in a good place in terms of the PSB. I suppose the challenge for us as a PSB is how do we lift above our individual organisations to then looking at what that work is, rather than individual organisations feeding in exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. There's a space there, isn't it? There's PSB space as opposed to our individual one. You're absolutely right, Mez. Sean.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And it's just probably to reinforce what Gavin and Mez have just said, really. We've submitted to the Generations Commission office, and we've also shared, I believe, with Connor as well, our report. So I think we have shared it with Connor for sharing. I'm happy to use any responses in any future discussions that progress as well, to see where we go as a PSB.
That's excellent. Thank you very much for that. And that's so, Gavin, subject to you getting permission or whatever, it sounds like we can share via Connor and get that working group together again, Catherine, if that's all right, to pull a table together, see where there are any issues, see what we can agree on, and then focus in on the higher level conversation, the added value that we talked about.
Thank you, everyone.
No, thank you very much for that. That was really useful. That's item 7. Oh, Councillor Charlton, I think item 8, the healthy travel charter. We come to you. You've waited very patiently and quietly. And anyone that knows Councillor Jackie, the fact she hasn't chipped in so far, she's probably been having to sit on her hands so she doesn't press the button. But Jackie, can you just give us an update here on this? And I think we've given you 10 minutes. I'm sorry about that.
No, 10 minutes is more than enough to do this. I'm hoping it's a fairly easy presentation. No, not too complicated at the end of your meeting. I haven't been here all meeting, but I certainly had to sit on my hands on that last item, looking at the climate and nature. But we can have a discussion about that in another place, leader. So that I'm very grateful. Thank you very much for allowing me to present this very simple report. It was due to come to you in June, which is why the date on here is June, but it was pulled just in case there were any cost implications. But further investigations, further work has been done on it. There are no cost implications. But the reason it's come to the PSB is this is a Mid Wales charter, and I'm hoping that the PSB will adopt the charter in the same way that Powys County Council have adopted it. It's a very simple charter. It's really focusing in on supporting all your staff into a healthy travel charter. And I know some people will say that it's quite difficult to do that in Powys. We rely very heavily on the car for staff and our work activities, going to meetings and things like that. But this is really a way of adopting a charter which helps those people who don't necessarily focus on car travel, who do use public transport, who will walk to work and back again, and who do have bikes. And I know possibly your organisations are already set up for this, but the charter is a commitment that we can all make to supporting our staff. It does have, a public transport commitment, an active travel commitment. It's about providing sustainable travel information, which we've tried to do recently here in Powys with our recent upgrade of our public transport network and having an interactive bus timetable that everybody can go to, and it interacts with the way you can travel across Powys using public transport and linking into other public transport outside of Powys. A really, really useful tool especially for your staff to use if they want to use public transport to go to different places. It's a way of being able to link them in. It's also about leadership. If we can have a charter like this across the whole of Powys in the different organisations, we are showing leadership about actually changing our attitudes, changing our behaviour in the way that we travel. We all go to our cars first. We probably don't have to, but that's what we're used to doing. So this is again helping us to change the way that everybody thinks about travelling. And we also want to be able to monitor that as well, as to measure staff travel patterns. And this should help out if you're going for net zero by whatever date you've got in your plans. This will help you to monitor whether you're going there. It would also be really useful for us as a whole. So when we're looking outside of our organisations to seeing how we're cutting our carbon emissions across the county as a whole, I think this will help us all to perhaps come back and monitor this at a later date. And finally, this really is a way of reducing emissions. So reducing emissions within our organisations, but outside of those organisations as well. So this has already been adopted by other public sector bodies such as Hywel Dda. Powys Teaching Health Board, I believe, has now adopted this in front of the PSB, which is really, really good news. And Ceredigion and Carmarthenshire County Councils have also adopted this. It does go a lot further than that. So down in South East Wales, they've got a lot of organisations that have adopted it as well. The actual charter is attached to the document. It's that little colourful charter right at the end of your papers, and that really just outlines all the different ways that you might be able to think about helping. So I'm hoping that the PSB will support this charter today and help us take this forward and making it one of the areas that we can really make a difference in. But I think actually all our staff will appreciate this as well. So if we can advertise it amongst our staff and get them to consider what they're doing, I think they will really, really appreciate this and find it supportive in the way that they consider moving around, doing their work and getting backwards and forwards to work. So I think that's all I wanted to say, Leader. But if I could get some commitment from the PSB today, that would be fantastic.
Thank you very much. Jackie, is anyone has anyone got something similar already within their organisations? I mean, I think we'd be interested just to know and reflect upon that first. And Jackie, you know, in terms of adoption, it's got a date on there in Powys, June 2025. Is it adopted? Are we actively doing it?
Well, interestingly, we are actively doing it, but it hasn't been officially adopted yet.
Didn't think it had.
But no, but it's you know, it is something. I think it'd be really easy for this to be adopted. I don't think there's any problem. I think there's a commitment, but I do think we wanted to bring it to the PSB first because of that full county-wide activity that we could make this much stronger and more helpful for all of us.
Start from the top and then work down into our organisations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Claire.
Thanks, Jake, and thanks, Jackie, for talking us through that. Certainly, from a PAVO perspective, there are a number of the recommendations on there that we already deliver and have done for some time, and some that we're exploring as part of our carbon reduction plan through our sustainability group. Some might be more challenging and also makes me think about how we're going to link this into future joint planning when it comes to issues such as, say, the North Powys programme, joint ventures around hubs, etc. I was thinking about this one here around providing drying rooms, lockers, showers, hair dryers. You know, how are we going to do that and take this charter into our future planning for programmes such as North Powys, for example?
Yeah, that's the one that always comes out, Claire. You're no different from anybody else. That's always the one that's challenged. I don't think we're saying that you have to have it, but if you are changing anything within your buildings, it's something you might want to consider. And we also had quite a long conversation when we were designing this. So this has been sitting around for about 3 years. So there's been a lot of discussion around this. But when we were looking at designing this, we actually said that feedback from cyclists is actually they don't particularly need showers. They don't need these things, but what they do need is somewhere to keep their bike safely and somewhere they can change. So it's the feeling that you end up being hot and sweaty and needing a shower after cycling to work is a bit of a misnomer. But having somewhere, if you're having to wear trousers and you want to change into a skirt or you want to change into something else, that's more important. And that can be adapted quite easily using, existing facilities like toilets, etc. So I don't think you need to do that. And if people really want to wash their hair before they start something, they could probably take their own hairdryer. So there are ways and means around it. But I think we felt that it was something to aspire to. So it's useful to have it in there.
I like the aspiration. You've seen from Gavin already that he's saying he's going to take that away and see if he can get that adopted. That's good. Mez?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Councillor Shelton. Yeah, absolutely. Fully support it element. When I was working in the southeast, I took it through the House Board there in AB a few years ago. When you look at this, a lot of organisations will probably do a lot of them anyway, and it's about working towards element, fits into that sustainability, climate change, the weight management we talked about earlier in terms of promoting healthy sort of lifestyles as well. It just underpins really a lot of our values and principles as well. So full support. Thank you.
Yep. And it's really good to hear that somebody has taken this through, because this has gone through a lot of organisations. It shouldn't have taken as long as it has done here, but it has. But we're here now, and it's great to have that feedback.
Okay, well, I mean, I think what we're saying is yes, and then individually we can go back into our own organisations and then have a go. So yes, I mean, obviously that provides us with that framework, that vision, that ambition that has been described there. So I'm going to just ask for a quick show of hands of those that are in the room. So if we agree to yes, so I've got one from me, I've got one from Sean, I've got Gavin. I think Mez has already said yes, so that's fine. So thank you very much, just for the note taker to do that. I think we're at the we're doing quite well for time, which is good. Quite disciplined. We're now at the point of looking at date of future meetings. They're set out there. You'll note that I think the 19th of March, we may just have a bit of a clash there with the not corporate joint committee, with the Mid Wales, Growing Mid Wales meeting. So we might just have to have a look at that. But there to note, really, unless anyone has any other observations. If you do have any issues this far in advance, then let us know, and we'll, like the one I've just highlighted, we'll try and work around that. So then we've got the work programme, which is identified. Yeah, thank you, Jackie. That's absolutely fine. Work programme, pages 45 to 48. Let me just get that up so we can have a quick look at the work programme. 45 to 48. So we've got a range of standing items there. Have we, if there are any points about getting a slot, putting things on, then please go through Connor to do that in the normal way. And that's item 10. And we normally have then a private meeting session at the end, don't we, to just get any updates. So Steve, in Connor's absence, is this the point that we say farewell to the recording? I think that's what we do, isn't it, and move into private session. Catherine?
It was just a note that we had a supplementary agenda item, which was the report, the Powys People and Communities Insight Report, which holds all of the insight that we've all sort of gathered through during those 3 months.
And that's what we're going to discuss, is it? Briefly?
No, that was the wellbeing assessment. But no, so I just I wondered, so in terms of what we've got, it just gives a flavour of some of the sort of key themes that have come back from that engagement. So a lot around the health and care sort of side of things, which I don't want to go into any detail, but a lot around community and place-based issues, that transport, digital exclusion, social isolation, as well as some of that environmental side. So I think the council did their sustainable resource strategy during that quarter. And a lot around some schools, as well as mental health and well-being. So in terms of the trends across sort of the reports that were done during that quarter, I think there were some things around barriers in terms of access to health and dental care, transport and digital exclusion, as well as obviously the rural challenges, which we all know, which can cause isolation, as well as that barriers to travel. But then there was a lot that came through in terms of community-led solutions as well. So it was just to highlight it was there, really, not to go through it in any depth.
No, thank you for that. I was actually reading through that when you were reading the pages 15 to whatever 24 in the pack, and taking sort of thought, and obviously one of the highlights in there is community conversations that you reveal. So an awful lot of engagement has taken place in that time. Claire?
Thanks, Jake, and thanks, Catherine. Again, I think I mentioned this in Cabinet the other day, but for other colleagues on this call, it's really important for me and colleagues around the community conversations, but also our other engagement platforms and workers such as the Older People's Forum and the Youth Engagement, that actually we feed back. And I think as a PSB and collective organisations, that feeding back to citizens is really key, because we can all have the papers here, we can all talk about it, but what difference are we making with the information we've gathered, and how are we feeding that back into our communities? So again, something I just think we really need to consider going forward.
Yes, I mean, one of the things that Claire, that we've certainly tried to do in putting the hub together for town and community councils, for instance, is get them to use it, to get them to put their own experience, their own examples of great practice on there, to feed in the queue, add questions that we can add to the Q&A, et cetera. The round of recent meetings we had, we plugged that again. I need to pick it up with Catherine outside of this meeting, how successful that's been. We have to keep reiterating that, because we create these fantastic platforms, these resources, where we are providing the feedback, but if no one's actually opening the envelope and looking in, we're not communicating. So we'll say effective communication takes two people. We say stuff, but we're not actually checking in that they've bothered to hear, or they feel they've had the opportunity here. So absolutely right, we need to revisiting this Claire, and we'll do so. So I'll pick that up with Catherine around how effective the hubs are that we're operating, and we might need to just keep pushing those as a means to engage. And obviously that conversation we're having, just to share with colleagues here, we had a presentation from Claire around some of the great work that she's been doing on our behalf, but also how we reshape our engagement work to make sure that we're being as efficient and as effective as we can be, which is what was being discussed earlier. And and getting people as involved as we can without tiring them out. Okay, so thank you for just bringing that to my attention, Catherine, not letting me close. So I think now we probably can close the open session. Mez.
Yeah, Chair, is it possible if I can raise an item under AOB, if possible, please? I'll keep it brief.
Oh, yes, okay, sorry, yes. I should have asked right at the start whether we had any AOB. So we'll take any other businesses, and then we'll move into the closed discussion, which would just have a bit of an exchange of those things that we can't discuss publicly. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So just to highlight to all members that you might have seen on the news, but I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware that flu is obviously circulating in our communities, and we've seen a sharp sort of doubling of rates over the last sort of 7 to 10 days, and also obviously impacts in hospitals across England and Wales. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that, and also if individuals are in the eligible groups, family, friends, workplaces in terms of social care, etc., and staff working in care homes and dom care, element really to encourage vaccination, which is our best form of defence, element to protect ourselves, but also to protect, family and loved ones as well, and those vulnerable elements. Thank you. And available through GP, pharmacy, and the vaccination centres are also offering flu vaccine now as well.
Thank you. An excellent advert. We've got a session with MPs and AMs tomorrow morning, and I think we're just putting winter pressures on the agenda. So Nina's put that on, winter pressures, because of course it's all part of that interface that we share together, isn't it? Looking after residents in the community. Gavin.
Yeah, no, really important point, isn't it? And as an employer, we provide a sort of a contribution towards people that want to take up, where they're not eligible for the free ones. But I just wanted to check in, because I did hear that there were some difficulties with availability of jabs in Carmarthenshire. I don't know whether that's any longer the case, but have we got any similar issues in Powys at all in terms of availability for those that do want to take advantage?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm not aware of availability in Carmarthen, but I chair a vaccination delivery group, and no reported shortage or anything that way, and also we can access more vaccines should we need it, sort of thing. Vaccine can be moved around from pharmacy to GP practice to vaccination centres, so that's good. Yeah, so there's vaccine there in fridges waiting to be vaccinated. Thank you, Gavin, and well done on your organisation as well, support.
No, very good. That's quite proactive, isn't it? So thank you very much for that. I'm going now to just ask Steve to close the session. Thank you all for your attendance and support, and then we'll just Catherine just wants to have one item on sustainability.